A few days ago, Donald Trump called a 30-year-old White House staffer into the Oval Office and offered him a new job as a top lawyer at the agency responsible for managing all the federal government's buildings, purchases, and technology. So who cares, right? Why is this a story? Well, the 30-year-old in question is a former right-wing podcaster named Paul Ingrassia, who admitted to some Republican colleagues last year that he has a, quote, Nazi streak. He also said that every holiday celebrating Black Americans, quote, needs to be eviscerated, that you should, quote, never trust a Chinaman or an Indian, that, quote, we need competent white men in positions of leadership, and that, quote, the founding fathers were wrong that all men are created equal. We need to reject that part of our heritage. Ingrassia made the comments in a group chat that one of the Republican operatives on the chain leaked to Politico. But it's not as if his views were all that secret. In 2023, he tweeted that the purpose of education should be, quote, elevating the high IQ section of your demographics. So, you know, basically young men, straight white men. A few months later, he tweeted that, quote, exceptional white men are not only the builders of Western civilization, but are the ones most capable of appreciating the fruits of our heritage. All of this was ultimately enough to sink Ingrassia's Senate confirmation after several Republicans took the rare step of opposing a Trump nominee. But it wasn't enough for Stephen Miller or J.D. Vance or Trump himself, who granted Ingrassia a personal audience in the Oval to reward him with the new role. It goes without saying that the President of the United States doesn't typically do this kind of thing for most mid-level personnel matters. Ingrassia isn't the only Republican official who's been letting his Reich flag fly in a group chat. You might remember the state party leaders who texted about loving Hitler, lying Jews, and sending their opponents to the gas chamber. Another leaked chat that led to multiple apologies, resignations, and condemnations from other Republicans. Except, of course, for J.D. Vance, who dismissed people's concerns as, quote, pearl clutching, and said that, quote, kids do stupid things. But the kids in question, most of whom are actually professionals in their 30s, don't seem to think what they're saying and doing is all that stupid. And their openly racist, anti-Semitic, anti-democratic, anti-American worldview is a virus that seems to be spreading throughout this generation of Republican staffers and media figures who've come of age in the Trump era. One writer has made news over the last week by saying that he believes 30 to 40% of the Gen Z Republicans who work in Washington are fans of Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist streamer with 500,000 subscribers who said that women, quote, want to be raped, blacks need to be imprisoned, and Jews are warmongers who, quote, must be absolutely annihilated when we take power. The writer who made the claim about 30 to 40% of Gen Z Republicans wasn't some lib or never Trumper, but Rod Dreher, an Orthodox Christian so conservative that he lives in Hungary as a big fan of authoritarian Viktor Orban. Dreher made his